So we're more than a year away from the next U.S. Senate election in Michigan. And as you know, Carl Levin, a Democrat, is not running this time. Some popular Republicans have decided against running, and not many Democrats were interested. So guys, this is a seat that comes open, a Senate seat comes open once in a blue moon. Why isn't there more interest in it?
Well, think about this for just a second. You've got the Republicans at the national level who are chomping at the bit to funnel a ton of cash into this state to win that seat. There's not been a Republican senator since Spencer Abraham from Michigan. They desperately need this one if they want to get control of the Senate in Washington. But the problem is you've got two really good potential candidates in Mike Rogers and Dave Camp, but they've got plum assignments in the House. They don't want to leave that. And statewide election for Republicans right now, they recognize, these guys are not stupid, they recognize it's going to be a difficult road to hoe on a statewide election for a Republican in Michigan this year.
Yeah, but Steve, when these things come up, we had an open governor seat last time around. Everybody and their brother went. We had a dozen candidates between the two parties. What is it about this Senate seat that folks don't want to take a chance on? You had one Democrat sign up, and Gary Peters, and they pretty much said, okay, Gary, you can have the nomination before we even get to a primary. And Republicans have one announced candidate as well, Terry Lynn Land. Yeah. And you got a couple others sniffing around it. Rob Steele out from Ypsilanti, Kim Small from Oakland County, the guy from Holland, the mayor. But in terms of the big names in Michigan politics that a year or so ago we thought would get in this race, they're not there.
One of the things I think is a real deterrent is money. This is anticipated to be one of the most expensive campaigns ever, and I think if you aren't somebody with either the ability to self-finance a lot of it, which Terry Lynn Land clearly has, or a candidate who's already got a big war chest,
like Peters.
I think the money becomes a difficulty. I mean, where are you going to get it, and do you want to spend 10, 12 months just raising money to take a
Craig,
shot at that
Craig, you said
seat?
that the money is just waiting to be invested.
I think if the right candidate was there on the Republican side, there will be a lot of money coming into Michigan from outside. I don't think the fundraising is going to be that difficult because, again, this is going to be a critical seat.
Even though this has been a Democratic state in federal elections
that's the thing.
For as long as anybody can, we still think Republicans would invest here?
I think they would. Like I said, if the right candidate was in the race. That's why they wanted Mike Rogers so badly. He has made a big name for himself on a national level. He's on Meet the Press about every other week, it seems. But like I said, he's got that great committee assignment.
But let me ask you this.
Give that up.
Steve, and you look at Kentucky race where Mitch McConnell's in trouble, and he's got a Tea Party candidate running against him in the primary, a strong Democrat in the general election, and the message they're sending is anti-Washington. You've been part of this problem. We want somebody from outside Washington. Why would we think that a Camp or a Rogers, both Washington insiders, would do well here?
Well, I'm not sure either one of them would do well here. I mean, I think Mike Rogers would have a better shot than Dave Camp. Just off name recognition. Most people outside Dave Camp's district don't know who he is.
But isn't that true of Gary Peters?
That's not true of Gary, who was the lottery commissioner, who ran for governor. He lost. But that's somebody who's been around a long time. He's on the ballot a lot. He's not the most recognized.
Outstate. I mean,
I think Gary Peters has a higher name recognition than Mark Schauer, who's going to run for governor.
And that's probably true. But
on a
does he have
side,
a higher name recognition than Terry Land, who actually held statewide?
Yeah, one statewide office. But, look, Terry Lynn Land's campaign, I think, gives you an idea into the problems that the Republicans are going to be dealing with. I mean, her whole campaign right now is, I'm conservative and I'm electable. And it's interesting.
I think that's actually a good sell.
But it's interesting to me that in her own campaign message, she's acknowledging that there seems to be a bit of a disconnect between those two concepts right now on a statewide level. Yeah. It tells you that it's going to be difficult where the Republican Party has been going in recent weeks and months to win a statewide election. The demographics aren't working in their favor in a lot of ways. So you've got Terry Lynn Land, who has won statewide election, but she also has to say, I'm conservative, I'll get through the primary, but then I can win at a statewide level, saying that there's nobody else out there that's like that right now.
Well, and how much will the Republican establishment get behind her? I mean,
that's the key question.
I know they felt like they could get a bigger name, a more conservative candidate into that race. How disappointed are they going to be that they didn't get it and then still line up behind her?
And that's the key question. But she brings, as you mentioned, she's a self-funder to a certain extent.
Yeah.
She put $2 million in her Secretary of
her
State
Secretary of
race. She
State race.
probably would put that an equal amount. That's a good start. That brings her about even with Peters
Mm-hmm.
in this race. And if she can get out there, she's an excellent grassroots campaigner. And if she does win the primary, and again, there are other names in this
People
race
could
who
get
could
in it,
rise
yeah.
up and challenge her. I mean, the key is, can they get enough attention, enough money to mount a race? But a Republican who can get up, work the grassroots statewide, I think that would give them an edge. But again, Michigan is a strange state in that it votes Democrat in federal races and Republican in House races.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's very hard from a national perspective where, the Republicans are charged up thinking that they may take the Senate next year, but you don't hear a lot about them figuring that Michigan seat into that calculus. So I'm not sure how confident they are about what will happen.
Which is, to me, I think it's foolish if they don't think about investing in this race, because it's not as if Gary Peters is some sort of super candidate that's unbeatable.
But Craig, do you hear a lot of anti-Washington sentiment among your callers?
Not so much. I mean, there's some of it out there, but it seems to have died down quite a bit. I think people just want it to function in some capacity. They may not necessarily like everything that's going on, but it's not as vitriolic, I don't think, the anti-Washington sentiment as it was a little bit ago.
Well, one of the things that could change that is, I mean, we've got three big sort of deadlines coming up in Washington later this fall. They got to pass a budget. There's another debt limit extension up. All of these things, if you can't work all that stuff out, and then the sequester, if you don't fix that, it's in the budget for another year.
And a bigger whack to defense.
That's right, and a bigger whack to defense. You get all those three things happening at the same time. Now people's attention will be back on what are they doing.
It could be a real throw the rascals out mood by the time this is done.
Right.
Time now for a quick roundup of some other news this week. Wayne County prosecutor Kym Worthy sent a letter to the county auditor telling him not to release his report on the over-budget and scrap downtown jail project. But one county commissioner says taxpayers have a right to know what went wrong. How does the possibility of criminal charges change the dynamic of this whole jail debate?
Well, I think, I mean, you're talking about $100 million
Disappeared.
that went somewhere that nobody, I mean, I would ask anybody to go down there and drive past that site and look at what's there, look at what's built, and tell me where $100 million went. You could build a whole building.
I mean, it looks like something you'd throw together in your backyard.
Exactly.
Go down to Home Depot with your pickup truck and $99 and get that.
It looks like that, but I mean, obviously that's deceiving, because there's a whole lot of work that had to happen on the site before they even started erecting the building portion of this. But what's interesting to me is, people are upset that we're not going to get this report right away. I'm okay with that personally, because we know that somebody screwed up. We know that it's way over budget. We're going to find that out eventually. If this allows for an investigation to go forward and we really get to the bottom of it, I'm willing to wait for that.
So,
I think a lot of people are too.
Steve, how worried should Bob Ficano be that Kym Worthy's got a hold of his britchy leg?
I don't think it looks good. I mean, I think he's been able to escape so far by saying, you know what, these are people who worked for me, who I trusted,
Blame Turkey.
who did something that I wasn't in on here. This is his project, and it's going to be very difficult for him, I think, to distance himself from this. You mentioned Turkey Mullen. I wouldn't be surprised to see her name come up again in this whole mess. And Azam Elder.
Well, it already has. I mean, Azam Elder, as the Free Press pointed out, was responsible for hiring the oversight person who happened to work for the county 3 days before his new company got hired to do the oversight on this project. I mean, it's that kind of stuff that people are.